I think we should not take it for granted that you people joined SADTU and you remained in SADTU, because there are many other teacher organizations that you can join. We must ensure that at all times we are really taking care of our members, to ensure that we are able to give our members a platform to express their views on issues of negotiation, so that we're able to empower those who are going to represent us at the level of the PSCBC. But comrades, we need also to say to you, SADTU is a worker-controlled organization. So I just want to give you what happened last year. We convened a special National Executive Committee meeting, and in that meeting we were presented with what the employer referred to as the final offer. And after getting that final offer, we were then requested, or we then agreed as the NEC, that we must go back to our provinces and also convene our special provincial executive committee meetings, where we should then mandate our regions to consult within their regions with their branches and give us a mandate. It was happening in all the provinces. And as it happens, we then had to go back and report as provinces. And I know that when we arrived there were 9 provinces, and 7 of them gave us the mandate that says their members were saying we can accept the offer, and 2 were saying no. My side rejected the offer. But remember, if my side rejected the offer, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is SADTU position. The same thing that is happening here today. We are here to consult with you. In all the provinces, members of SADTU are being consulted. We are going to consolidate whatever mandates we get from all these gatherings. So if what you said is not the final position, it does not necessarily mean that you were not consulted. And I think comrades must understand the principle of democratic centralism. This is democracy. We are here to consult with our members. Our members will indicate what they want to see happening. We will consolidate, and finally we will have a position. Once there is a position, the center must hold. If you behave outside the center, you are defining yourself outside the organization. In fact, in organizational concepts, it's called ill discipline. There is nothing wrong in the organization taking action against you. So as we consult you here, comrades, you must know that at the end, the position of SADTU will be the position that is supported by the majority. And we must also indicate, comrades, that SADTU organization is growing tremendously, even in the public sector. It is showing its significant presence both in the public sector, Coordinating Bargaining Council, and also in the ELRC, the Education Labor Relations Council. When we check, it shows us that out of every 3 education workers, 2 of them are SADTU members. And you must be happy that you are belonging to an organization that is having the masses. It means that when you speak, you should be listened to. Comrades, in our own National Congress, we have resolved that we should continue to fight for the improvement of conditions of service where you work. We must ensure as a union that all policies that get to be adopted are really bringing some improvements where you are working. And let me give you just a background of what happened last year, comrades. Last year, there was no agreement signed in 2022. And we are saying to you, on Friday, we are having a special provincial executive committee meeting that is going to be interacting with the mandate that we shall have received from you. On Sunday, we are having a special national executive committee that is going to be consolidating the position of SADTU structures nationally. So the chair of the session will stand up and say, there is a proposal from the Special National Executive Committee. Issues that we're agreeing with, we'll be able to say, no, we're agreeing with. Where we think we've got a different view, after we have explained to you and given you global trends and domestic trends and inflation, that is where the special NEC felt we should recommend that we interact with that. So the chair of the session will stand and say, what are you saying? If we are agreeing, somebody will say, I propose that we endorse the recommendation. Somebody will say, I second. If there's somebody who says, but on this one, I think we must do it this way, that person will say that, and then we will then record what you are saying, and then it will be the end of our meeting.
It's time now for us to interact with those recommendations. We were attentively listening to the chairperson. He was able to indicate that here is a single term. He was able to indicate that we are going for 2% extra on top of the CPIX of 7.5%. So we are at 9.5%. Now, comrades, I want to check amongst yourselves from the presentation that the comrade will raise up his or her hand and indicate that as member of SADTU, we are moving with the recommendations from the Special National Executive Committee meeting of SADTU.
I'm Comrade Vikwa from Jaimutitimi. Comrade, I do agree with the proposal of a single term. But where I differ is the rest of the other, the 9.5. Let's go a little bit higher. And there's another one that is mentioned, that of the housing allowance. We also differ with regards to that one, whereby in some of the sites, or in my site, we have agreed that let the money come to our accounts.
In relation to the recommendations that have been forwarded to us from the special NEC, I think I move for this recommendation on the basis that these recommendations are based on the research. As we have been given the information in relation to the global issues around the savings, around the percentages that we are given, that the CPI plus 5.9%, 3 years frozen, that was frozen, the adjustment must be done, as well as the single term agreement. I fully agree with this. Let's move forward.
Comrade, the understanding is that we are unanimously agreeing in terms of the recommendations by the Special National Executive Committee of SADTU. Is that the understanding? We agree. Say it, comrade, for the first time.
We agree, comrade.
So, my leader. Comrade Chair, just come and clarify the issue of savings in terms of the housing.
I have not spoken about savings of housing as part of the negotiations. I have not spoken about that. What I was speaking about was that when members resign, if you resign when you are an employee of the Department of Education, or when you are dismissed, they don't give you your savings. So SADTU is saying those savings belong to you. You must be given those savings, even if you exit through dismissal, or even if you dismiss through resignation. And in terms of housing, what we didn't indicate is that we are saying the demand that says housing subsidy must be 2,500 must be maintained. So we must move for that 2,500 rand for housing allowance that you are getting. So that part that is raising is not necessarily part of the recommendations. There are two proposals, comrades. The first proposal did not indicate the percentage. You just said, let's go a bit higher. Maybe if you can just indicate to us higher, you were thinking of how much. So 10, all right. There is a 9.5% and there is also a 10%. You are saying? You go for? 10. All right. Comrades are saying we must go for 10? Okay. Anybody who is opposed to that? No one. Remember, 10 is the proposal. All right. Okay, comrades. We are at 10. And secondly, we don't have a problem with all the others of 2,500 rand for housing subsidy. People who have resigned must still get their money. And because those things are demands that we already had in the past. Those are outstanding demands that are sitting before the PSCBC that have not yet been resolved. So we're okay with that, comrades. So we've got a decision. So all we will allow the region to do is to check if there are comrades who want to ask questions based on the other issues that we raise, and then we can deal with them. In terms of negotiations, we are all okay. Thank you very much.
That's a submission from JB Marks Region. that in all the recommendations from the National Executive Committee, we are saying 9.5%, we move it to 10%.
This is Tami Valashia from Tamolikitan. I only needed to have a formal position on the access to our pension funds. What percentage are we going to have access on our pension funds?
The question was, what percentage are we going to have in terms of accessing our pension fund?
I'm worried about the 1.5 that most of our members did not receive, and we have submitted, and others worse, the 3%, who have not even received, and we have submitted their names. How far is our SADTU in terms of trying to deal with that?
In terms of the submission from the National Executive Committee, that party access to pension fund is part of the outstanding demands. Now, SADTU is saying these things should be finalized in this round of negotiations, and there must be a robust program with dates to say we must finalize them in this day, on this day. But in terms of how much, I want to persuade Comrade Valashia that we should not have the percentage in this meeting. Let's allow the leadership at that level, as they're discussing with, remember, pension fund has got its own policy. There is a government pension fund, they've got their own policy. Let's allow that interaction to take place at that level, and this information will be communicated. Remember, we should not allow a situation where people claim to an extent that we will blame ourselves as a union to say we have created a mess. But to say we must engage on the percentage of claiming, it was not necessarily part of what this meeting should deal with. So let's allow that part to be dealt with at that level. In terms of the 3%, those who are not yet paid, comrades, submission must be done to branches. Branches submit to the region. The region meet with HR district to ensure that people get paid. So if there are people who are not yet paid and submissions were made, get the feedback to the receiver of the submission. Let's take it serious that those members really need to be paid, and it's our responsibility as elected leaders to make follow-up and make them paid. Let's ensure that as SADTU, we guard our schools and we ensure that they are functional. We can't have our schools, being accessible to drug lords, and we cannot also have our schools, being used by some of us within them to become dysfunctional. So if you people are working in institution where you think the circus that we see in Parliament of people even climbing the stage and doing all those things and others just opposing one another and all those things, if you think that is where that is what should happen in our schools, you are also disadvantaging yourselves. And I think as the leaders of SADTU, we must also identify those schools, go there as leaders. Maybe what should happen, if you are working in such a school, report that to the branch. If the branch is unable to assist, the region must come. If the region is unable to assist, the province must come. If the province cannot assist, national can come. Then, finally, we don't know where we're going. We can't go international on this one. We must be able to resolve it here.
Comrade, thank you very much for your attendance. The meeting is officially closed. Let us bring those attendance registers, please.
Mike Mainganya, the provincial chairperson of SADTU. We are here in Klerksdorp. We have just finished with our Education Worker Fora of 5 branches that are part of Marks Region. In the meeting, we were discussing issues of salary negotiations, and all 5 branches have unanimously agreed as follows. In terms of the term of agreement, we must agree that we must negotiate for a single term. In terms of the salary increases, they are indicating that we should demand CPI, which is 7.5%, and 2.5% nominal increase, which will take us to 10%. In terms of the outstanding demands, they are indicating that the savings that they've made in housing they should be able to access them even if they've resigned, even if they leave through resignation. Because in terms of the present policy, if you have resigned, you cannot necessarily access your savings. In terms of the salary increases, government should recognize the fact that salaries were frozen for the past 3 years, and when the economy recovers, there should be an adjustment that will allow members to be able to afford basic needs. In terms of other outstanding demands, in terms of housing, they're saying we should demand a 2,500 housing subsidy. And during state of national disasters, they are saying because workers go to work and risk their health during that time, there should be a 12% that should be paid of their basic salary during national disasters. In terms of bursaries, they are indicating that many workers are unable to afford to take their kids to universities because they don't qualify in terms of NSFAS, but we regard them as the missing middle. So there should be a scheme where children of government employees are able to access bursaries. And lastly, in terms of pension fund, they are saying there should be a commitment to finalize the policy to allow workers to access a bit of their pension fund. Or that is the summary of the discussion and the agreement of all 5 branches today here. Thank you very much.
Greetings, comrades. With the advent of social media, SADTU has evolved with the times to bring you the educator's voice on your social media platforms, to report on issues regarding your conditions of service, union programs, and to highlight the successes of members who excel in the profession, and many more. This is SADTU Online TV, coming live from Matthew Koniwe House. This is Nomusa Cembi, your host. Amandla.